We're catching gharial and mugger in nets. Fishermen will be putting the nets out and checking the nets every half hour, and hopefully we'll catch some animals and put a radio tag on the animals and release them within a couple hours. We're walking down to get in the boat, and we're going to go across the river to the fishermen's camp. And just below, the fishermen have started setting the nets. We have a 150-meter net that they're going to set around the basking beach. And as the gharial come in, as the mist clears and the sun comes out, the gharial will get hopefully caught in the net coming into the basking site. It's a really clear day. We had a clear night, but we have really heavy mist on the water, so we can hardly see. We can hardly see across. There's a little side channel here. The boat will come in and pick us up and take us over to the fishermen camp. The fishermen are camped above the sandbank. There's a deep pool, shallow. The river's quite shallow here and then drops into a deep pool. And the gharial bask on the edge of the deep pool on a sandbank on the other side of the river. These are all the fishermen.
Who's the guy?
And Bonsami has come from Chennai, from the crack bank, to catch the gharial.
We saw the net move, and a couple of guys are standing on one end, and they picked up the net. It looked like it was like there was a struggling animal there somewhere.
रामराज कितना बड़ा है?
तकरीबन 1 मीटर का है।
ठीक है, हेल्थ वाइज ठीक है?
हाँ ठीक है।
और अभी निकाल लिया क्या जाल से?
हाँ निकाल लिया है, लेके आ रहे हैं।
ओके ओके ओके, हम रेडी होते हैं यहाँ पे।
ठीक है।
Jeff, we got one.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Small.
It's well, they say it's about 1 meter long.
Okay.
But they've got it out of the net.
That's exactly the kind we want to tag some small ones so we can find out what the juveniles are doing.
Cool. So they've got it on the boat and they're just bringing them.
Okay, we'll get ready.
Okay.
बड़ा था।
इधर मार दो।
We're not only interested in the animals that we tag, but we tag the animals. We have to catch them first of all, and gharial, unlike most other crocodilians, can't be baited. You can't get them to come into traps. You have to actually net them, and so we are using local people who are skilled at netting. We net the animals, restrain the animals, and then attach the radio, release the animals. All this takes usually several hours, not more than a day, and then we follow the animal for 2 or 3 years, and we use those animals kind of tell us what the whole population is doing. So when we actually catch the animal in the net, we usually secure its mouth, we band it, and then the animal is either, if it's fairly large, we often end up tying it to a ladder so that it can't move and twist. These animals are really powerful swimmers, and so they present some real challenges in terms of handling, and they're also big. You can actually put this under the stick,
Yeah, better.
Huh? The animals, of course, are weighed. We take the total length. We sex the animals so we can tell whether they're males or females.
It's 20 even.
पैर नहीं
पैर नहीं।
ऐसे
1 second, Jeff. Yeah, I'm okay.
Huh?
लिख ले भाई तो ज़्यादा
104.
Yeah.
79. Stub tail. And then we gotta tie the legs when we go back. Female.
Female.
Huh? There you
Female
go.
है,
yeah.
female. नर है.
That's it.
Mada.
That's it.
Sorry.
Flip right.
Yeah, yeah. Then you flip her and we'll tie her that way. All right.
कैसे हटाना?
Because you might want to put a rope right around her neck. Tie
Yes.
her right to that rung.
Gauri, get the head measurement.
35.2.
Bunkai is the animal we tagged. Yeah, this is number 2. Only 28 to go. Well, we can bring the suture up and just tie it to the radio. Radio is actually attached by making small incisions on the side just below the scutes, and then taking a small bore needle and putting it through the skin above the muscle, but underneath the dorsal skin, the skin on the back, and then threading some fishing line from one side to the other, and then we bring the fishing line up through a scute on either side. Often we drill a hole in the base of the scute that gives us a further base for attachment. The radios have rings along the base, and so we tie those rings with knots and then swage them. So we use a little metal coupling and smash that so that the fishing line can't untie. And then we put a little dab of epoxy to just kind of cut down on the wear. There's a long antenna that extends out toward the tip of the tail that just moves freely. It's flexible. And then we attach tags, visual markers. These are essentially livestock tags of different sizes, scaled to the animal. And we put those on, and they last for 2-3 years, and so they help us identify animals we've marked in addition to the radio signal. Last one we did was
3.
Yeah,
3 hour. 3 hour.
so.
That's it.
Ready to go?
You want to go and release her there?
The animal is taken down to the edge of the water. We take the bands off, and actually during the whole process the animals are very docile. They tend not to thrash around, and then once we get them near the water and remove the band, they almost seem like they're coming alive, like they've almost been asleep during the time, and this surprises a lot of people, and usually they make a mad dash for the water. Once we've captured and tagged the animal and put the radio on, then the real work begins, because then we can actually do the tracking, and that's really what we're our main objective here. So we can turn the radio on. The radio is on, and what we can do is monitor the radio with a 5-element antenna and a receiver that we can carry around with us on footpaths up to the sides of the river. And when we hear the signal, then we know that the animal's in that vicinity, and we can write down the location, and often we can actually see the animal and follow what it's doing. So let's listen for 90. We can also vary the gain, so the sound And these radios actually have a temperature circuit built into them, so we can tell what the temperature of the animal is. We're going to count 10 pulses, and when the animals are warm, it'll go beep, 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 and when the animals are cool, it'll go beep, 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 beep. And so we'll be able to find out where the animal is, what its temperature is, and hopefully learn something about it. And this animal seems to be in that direction, headed probably upriver rather than downriver. Yeah, it's moving. Why are gharials really important? Why pay so much attention to the animals in this river? Well, this is probably the last place where gharials are actually living in a free, open river, a dynamic river. And gharials are really a unique species because crocodilians are generally grouped into three groups, and it's gharials in the sort of subgroup, and it's just a special animal. Gharials, we really know very little about gharials, basically, and that was sort of one of the one of the things that sort of motivated me to come, because this is the last free living population, and so little actually is known about their natural history. Actually moving 100 plus kilometers every season. So they move down during the monsoon, the river floods. This river valley, the banks, the river probably rises some 10 to 15 meters. So one of the most fascinating things about the gharial are they nest in groups. So we have sometimes 5, 10, 15. 2 years ago we found a place where there were 30 nests all in one place. The dominant males, which normally throughout the season are very hard to locate. You can't see them very easily. They sort of hide. They show themselves rarely. Were clearly visible, and they were associated with groups of hundreds to even thousands of hatchlings at some of these nesting banks. In most crocodilians, the females open the nest and then actually put the babies in their mouth and transport them to the water. Now, we didn't have any evidence that this occurred or didn't occur in gharial, and so one of the things we've sort of been able to show is that the females don't really pick up the babies, but the babies hatch close enough to the water so that they form these large groups. And then the large groups, because it's pre-monsoon, there's very little vegetation, it's a very stark landscape, it's very hot during the day, these large groups of babies are really vulnerable to predation. And so the females, when they nest, guard the nest. The males associate with those nesting colonies, and then a male usually is associated, a dominant male, a big male with a big gara, and he'll come in when there's a major disturbance. The male is often very stealthy when he comes in, and then he'll usually display very prominently. He'll jaw clap, ride the water, inflating his body, and he has his gara kind of amplifies his breathing, so you get very loud hissing, and the whole thing seems to be an intimidation display, essentially to say, I'm here, and don't touch my babies. And so this kind of parental care is really not documented in any of the other species to the extent that we see it in gharial. So we're still trying to understand, but it definitely makes gharial unique in that the male is so heavily involved in the parental care. Why treat gharials differently, perhaps? Gharials are very specialized fish eaters, so they pose very little threat to humans. Gharials really don't represent the sort of threat that saltwater crocodiles, for instance, represent.